Tommy Bilotti was an American mobster who briefly served as underboss of the Gambino crime family in New York City. It was his promotion that helped trigger the 1985 assassination of boss Paul Castellano. Bilotti would end up killed as well as part of the assassination. The son of Italian immigrants Lillian, née Rosso, and Anthony Bilotti, he was born on the Staten Island borough of New York City. As a young man, Bilotti became an associate in the crew of Johnny D. D'Alessio, a capo regime in the Gambino crime family who controlled illegal gambling and other rackets on Staten Island. He later became a criminal associate of John's brothers Alexander Pope D'Alessio and Michael Mikey D. D'Alessio. Bilotti also spent time as the chauffeur and bodyguard of Alexander the Ox de Brizzi, an uncle of the D'Alessio brothers who controlled the Staten Island waterfront for the Gambino crime family. He became an integral member of the D'Alessio crew and was involved in labor racketeering, extortion, and loan sharking. In 1969, Bilotti was arrested on Staten Island on a felony charge of possessing stolen property. He gained a reputation for violence. In one incident, Bilotti assaulted Colombo crime family associate Robert Pate. FBI agents Joseph O'Brien and Andres Currens described Bilotti in the book Boss of Bosses, The Fall of the Godfather, the FBI and Paul Castellano as he was basically a pit bull with shoes on. If he had a business ability beyond choreographing a shakedown or calculating the interest owed on Shylock loans, it didn't show. In a milieu not known for its conversational finesse, Bilotti distinguished himself by spluttering inarticulateness. He was short, 5'7". He was stubby, a rock-solid 220. He wore a bad toupee. He had no tact, no charm, no sense of humor. He had a big mouth, and his piggish eyes were too close together. To the concept of self-control, he was a stranger. Bilotti was a reputed hitman for the D'Alessio crew, and was allegedly involved in at least 11 murders. Bilotti was a resident of Kensington Avenue on Staten Island in April 1970, when he and an accomplice, Thomas Papanier, were observed discarding firearms and arrested following a shooting in Jamesburg, New Jersey. Bilotti and Papanier were apprehended as they ran from the scene of the shooting, in which African-American teenager Emery Parks suffered superficial injuries when he was struck in the back of the head by birdshot pellets. The quick arrest of the pair occurred as the Jamesburg area was in the midst of significant racial tension after riots at the local high school, and police from Spotswood and Monroe Township were on alert. Although police suspected that the duo were responsible for Parks' injuries, Bilotti and Papanier were initially charged with carrying a concealed weapon, carrying a pistol without a permit, and failing to secure a permit to purchase a pistol. A Middlesex County grand jury ultimately indicted the men only for illegal possession of concealed weapons. Over the years, Bilotti became a close aide-de-camp and confidant of another Gambino captain, Paul Castellano, who reportedly saw much potential in the ambitious Bilotti and took him on as a protege. He served as Castellano's primary chauffeur, bodyguard, and enforcer. Although Castellano had worked hard to cultivate a sophisticated image, he chose the thuggish Bilotti as his protege because he was vigilant, hardworking, fearless, and, above all, loyal, according to O'Brien and Currens. The agents described his traits. As long as he was waiting on Paul Castellano, Tommy Bilotti was deferential, subdued, watchful, yet calm, like a dog on a rug. His self-esteem derived from adoration of the master, and he could afford to be well-behaved. Problems occurred, however, when Bilotti was sent on errands of his own. Out of sight of the boss, he got rambunctious. He tried to play the big shot, he overdid things, and embroidered gratuitous cruelty through what should have been straightforward business transactions. In one incident, Bilotti entered a Staten Island bar armed with a baseball bat to collect an interest payment from the owner, who was still recovering and trying to pay medical bills from a beating sustained weeks earlier. He berated the bar patrons and owner before unzipping his pants and ordering the bar owner to put his mouth on him, saying to the patrons looking on, "You see? He likes it." O'Brien was warned by Bruce Mao, the supervisor of the FBI's Squad C-16, which was assigned to investigate the Gambino crime family. Don't ever talk to Tommy Bilotti alone. He doesn't play by the rules, and he has a very short fuse. In an incident when O'Brien followed Bilotti to a beauty parlor owned by his second wife, Donna, Bilotti left the parlor by a back door, entered another car, and pulled up next to the vehicle from which O'Brien was carrying out surveillance and confronted the agent. Describing Bilotti's demeanor during the encounter, O'Brien said, "Now, most people, when they are building up to a fit of rage, need some give and take, some goading, to get them really psyched. Not Tommy Bilotti. When he got mad, it was like a nuclear reactor going into a meltdown. Once a certain threshold was reached, the process just fed on itself, the voltage increasing exponentially until the fuel was all used up, and everything within a certain radius had been leveled. His voice got louder and louder. He made less and less sense. Soon he was just spitting out curses wrapped in random phrases, his face purple, his nostrils distended, ropey veins standing out on his pit bull neck." In 1971, John D'Alessio allegedly recruited Thomas Bilotti and his brother Joseph to murder Tommy Edwards Ernst, the common-law husband of D'Alessio's daughter Teresa. Ernst, who was in debt to 2 Staten Island mobsters, survived an initial attempt on his life at a Grasmere diner on August 31, 1971. He then agreed to meet with D'Alessio at the Wild Acres Bar in Dingman's Ferry, near D'Alessio's summer home in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, on September 2, 1971. After leaving the D'Alessio country mansion on his way to the meeting, Ernst's Cadillac was overtaken by 3 men in a car who opened fire at him. However, this murder attempt also failed when Teresa D'Alessio, who was not supposed to be present, returned fire with a semi-automatic rifle. Ernst reportedly identified the 2 shooters to the Pennsylvania State Police before withdrawing the identification. Ernst was ultimately killed on April 6, 1972, when he was ambushed and shot twice by an unidentified gunman on the porch of John D'Alessio's home at 151 Jumel Street in Great Kills, where he had been making a visit to Teresa D'Alessio. Bilotti's first wife, Catherine, died of cancer in her mid-30s, and he subsequently remarried to Donna, a Brooklyn beauty parlor owner. He had a severely autistic son who had been institutionalized since childhood, and although Bilotti visited the boy regularly, he rarely spoke of him. Bilotti was best man at the wedding of actor Gianni Russo, a fellow native of Staten Island. Another Bilotti brother, Jimmy, worked for the singer Frank Sinatra in Las Vegas for several years during the 1970s and 1980s. Following the death of Carlo Gambino, Big Paul Castellano was elevated to boss of the Gambino crime family in 1976. Gambino's decision to appoint Castellano as his successor essentially split the family into 2 factions: Castellano's white-collar branch and a blue-collar wing led by underboss Aniello Della Croce. Tommy Bilotti was subsequently inducted as a made member of the family in October 1977, and his older brother Joseph followed suit in 1980. When Castellano moved into a custom-built palatial mansion at 177 Benedict Road atop Staten Island's Tot Hill in 1980, Bilotti moved into a less ostentatious home nearby. He was a regular visitor and dinner guest at Castellano's mansion and was considered a close family friend. However, when Castellano started an affair with his live-in maid Gloria Olarte, Bilotti kept it secret from Castellano's wife Nina. Bilotti, along with Salvatore Barbato, also provided security for Castellano and his estate. Bilotti and Castellano regularly vacationed together at Pompano Beach, Florida. Castellano promoted Bilotti to captain in the fall of 1981, and he oversaw a crew of soldiers that included his brother Joseph Bilotti and John Gambino. In addition to maintaining a large loan sharking book, Bilotti was granted lucrative new business ventures by Castellano. The pair were partners in Scaramix, a concrete supply company headquartered at 2537 Richmond Terrace in West New Brighton, which continuously won profitable contracts. The company obtained more than $2 million in subcontracts on city and transit authority construction projects between 1984 and 1986 alone. Paul's son Philip Castellano was installed as president of Scaramix, and Bilotti served as the company's vice president, overseeing day-to-day activities on various construction projects in New York City and New Jersey, in which the Gambino crime family had an interest. He was also heavily involved in the Steamfitters Local 638 of the Plumbers Union that was represented by George Daly, an associate who belonged to Bilotti's crew. Daly served as Local 638's business agent until his 1987 conviction for soliciting bribes to ensure labor peace. Agnello Della Croce's death from cancer on December 2, 1985, started a chain of events that led to Castellano's murder 2 weeks later. A group of Gambino mobsters, including members of Della Croce's faction, as well as one-time Castellano loyalists, conspired to assassinate Castellano and supplant him with John Gotti as head of the family. The main conspirators who composed the dissident faction were Gotti, Joseph Joe Piney Armone, Frankie D. DeSico, Robert DeBernardo, and Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, collectively known as the Fist. Several factors contributed to the conspiracy to kill Castellano. His failure to attend Della Croce's wake was an insult to the Della Croce family and his followers. Secondly, Castellano named his bodyguard Bilotti as the new underboss, a decision which caused insult to other members of the family who felt they were more deserving of the position. Castellano also hinted that he planned on breaking up Gotti's crew over rumors of drug dealing. Gravano suggested killing both Castellano and Bilotti while they were eating breakfast at a diner. However, when DeCicco tipped Gotti off that he would be having a meeting with Castellano and several other Gambino mobsters at Sparks Steakhouse on December 16th, Gotti and the other conspirators decided to kill him then. On Monday, December 16th, 1985, Bilotti drove Castellano to the prearranged early evening meeting at Sparks Steakhouse in Midtown Manhattan on East 46th Street near 3rd Avenue. A hit team, Salvatore Scala, Edward Lino, and John Carneglia, waited near the restaurant entrance. Positioned down the street were backup shooters Dominic Pizzonia, Angelo Ruggiero, and Tony Rampino. Gotti, along with Sammy the Bull, observed the scene from a car across the street. As Castellano was exiting the car at the front of the restaurant at around 5:26 p.m. EST, the gunman ran up and shot him several times. Allegedly, Carneglia was the gunman who shot Castellano in the head. Tommy was shot as he exited from the driver's door. Before leaving the murder scene, Gotti drove past to view the bodies. He is buried 50 yards away from Castellano in the Moravian Cemetery of New Dorp, Staten Island. He left behind 10 children, including a 6-week-old baby daughter. His wife Donna suffered a nervous breakdown and a miscarriage. Tommy's lucrative loan sharking business was taken over by Joe Watts, who was given Bilotti's Shylock book as a reward for acting as a backup shooter in the Castellano assassination.